Hey Banksy class, I've been putting it off because this is the last story of our little Great Outdoors short stories collection. One more to go, like I said. It's been a couple of days before I've done this because it is the last one. I might find another little book that I can read to you, I don't know. We've got only one more week and then a couple more days before I see you guys. So that will be nice, and then I can read stories in person to you. So our last story is called The Cross Little Tadpole. Tadpole is a really good animal to look at because their life cycle is very different to some other life cycles. We will be looking at life cycles as part of our living things in science when we return to school. So, The Cross Little Tadpole. Once upon a time, a big massive jelly lay on the top of a pond. In it, there were tiny black specks, like little black commas. I wonder who knows what a comma looks like. In year 2, we say commas look like number 9 on a line, because they're like tiny little lines. The sun shone down and warmed the jelly. A fish tried to nibble a bit, but it was too slippery. A big black beetle tried a little too, but he did not like it. The rain came and pattered down on the jelly. Every day, the tiny black specks grew bigger. They were eggs. Soon it would be time for them to hatch and swim about as tadpoles in the pond. The day came when the black eggs had begun wriggling tadpoles, and then the jelly began to disappear. It was no longer needed. It had saved the eggs from being eaten because it was too slippery for any creature to gobble up for its dinner. See, how interesting is that? A little short story, and just from that little first paragraph, we actually know why frogs' eggs are like that, why they're jellified. It is because they protect the egg, but we now know that other creatures also don't like the taste, they don't like the texture, puts them off, protects the eggs. I didn't know that, so I've learnt something new too. The little black wrigglers swam to a waterweed and held on to it. They were very, very tiny. When they were hungry, they nibbled the weed, and it tasted nice to them. They grew bigger each day in the pond, and soon the other creatures began to know them. "There go 2 tadpoles," said the stickleback, all his spines standing up along his back. "Funny creatures, aren't they?" said the big black beetle. "All head and tail, nothing much else to them." "Hundreds of them," said the water snail. "The whole pond is full of them." "I like them for my dinner," said the dragonfly grub. "Look, I hide down here in the mud, and when I see a nice fat tadpole swimming by, out I pounce and catch one in my jaw." Because obviously they are food to other animals that are other creatures, mini beasts that are in their food chain. So like the dragonfly will eat the tadpole. A good many of the tadpoles were eaten by their enemies because they were not sharp enough or fast enough yet to escape. Those that were left grew big and raced about the pond, wriggling their long tails swiftly. One little tadpole had some narrow escapes. One of the black beetles nearly caught him. In fact, a tiny piece was bitten off his tail. Another time he scraped himself badly on the spines of the stickleback. And twice the dragonfly grub darted at him and almost caught him. Each time the little tadpole was very cross. "Leave me alone. What harm am I doing to you? I don't want to be your dinner." The pond had other things in it besides the fish and the grubs and the beetles. It had some frogs, and the little tadpole was always in a temper about these. "Those big fat frogs are so rude and bad-mannered," he said to the other tadpoles. "How I hate them with their gaping mouths and great big eyes." The frogs didn't like the cross little tadpole much, because he called them rude names. Sometimes they chased him, swimming fast with their strong hind legs. "If once we catch you, we shall make you very sorry," they all croaked. The tadpole swam behind a stone and called back to them, "Old croakers, old greedy mouths, old sticking out eyes." Being a bit rude, isn't he? The frogs tried to overturn the stone and get the rude Tadpole, but he burrowed down into the mud and came up far behind them. "Old croakers," he cried. "Here I am, peek-a-boo, old croakers." The frogs lay in wait for the rude Tadpole. He never knew when a fat green frog would jump into the water from the bank almost on top of him. He never knew when one would scramble out of the mud just below him. "I'm tired of these frogs," he told the other tadpoles. "I wish somebody would eat them. I wish those ducks would come back and gobble them up." The tadpole had never forgotten one day when some wild ducks had flown down to the pond and had frightened all of the frogs and other creatures very much indeed. The ducks had caught and eaten 3 frogs and at least 20 tadpoles. It had been a dreadful day. None of the tadpoles ever forgot it. "You shouldn't wish for those ducks to come back," said the stickleback. "You might be eaten yourself." "I'm getting too big to be eaten," said the cross tadpole. "Stickleback, what else eats frogs?" "The grass snake eats frogs," said the pretty little stickleback. "I once saw him sliding down into the water. He swam beautifully. He ate 4 frogs when he came. I've a good mind to go and tell him to come to this pond and eat some more frogs," said the tadpole. "He might be glad to know there was a good meal here for him." "Well, he is lying in the sun on the back of the pond, over there," said the stickleback. "Go and tell him now if you wish." "But Tadpole, listen to me. I don't think I've ever met anyone quite so silly as you are in all my life." "Pooh!" said the tadpole rudely, and swam off towards the bank, on which the long grass snake was lying curled up in a heap. The tadpole poked his black head out of the water and called up to the snake. "Hi, grass snake, can you hear me?" The snake woke up in surprise. He looked at the tadpole. "What do you want?" he cried. "I've come to tell you that there are a lot of horrid nasty frogs in this pond that would make a very good dinner for you," said the tadpole. "If you slide into the water now, I'll show you where to look for them. I'd be glad if you would eat every frog you can see, because they lie in wait for me and they try to catch me." The snake put out his quivering tongue and then drew it in again. "I would come today, but I have just had a very good meal anyway," he said. "I will come back some another day, when I am hungry, and you shall show me where to find the frogs then." He glided off through the grass. The tadpole swam back to his friends in excitement. "What do you think?" he cried. "I've told the grass snake about those horrid frogs over there. He's coming back to eat them one day soon." The days went on. Warm, sunny days. The tadpoles grew and grew. One day he noticed that he had 2 back legs, and he was most astonished. "Hello," he said. "I've got 2 legs. So have all the other tadpoles. Rather nice, aren't they?" Then he noticed that he had front legs as well. His tail had become shorter. He wanted to breathe up in the air instead of breathing down in the water all the time. He and the other tadpoles found a little bit of wood on the surface of the water, and they climbed upon it. It was so nice to sit there in the sunshine, breathing the warm air. It was fun to flick out a little tongue to see if any fly could be caught by it. "This is a nice life," said the cross tadpole. "A very nice life. I like living in this warm pond. Most of those horrid frogs have gone now, so life is very pleasant." "There's your friend, the grass snake," said the stickleback, poking his head up suddenly. "Why don't you go tell him to come and gobble up all the frogs in this pond, as you said you would?" Tadpole was just about to leap off his bit of wood when he caught sight of himself in the water. The pond was calm that day, like a mirror, and the tadpole could see himself very well. He stared down at himself in horror, and then in amazement, for he did not see a tadpole any more, but a small frog. "I've turned into a frog," he croaked. I have, and all the other tadpoles are little frogs too. Why didn't I notice it before?" "Tadpoles always turn into frogs. I could have told you that before, but you never would listen to anyone," said the stickleback. "Well, are you going to find the grass snake and tell him to come and eat you all, and your friends too? You said you would tell him where the frogs were in the pond." But the tiny frog did not go to tell the snake anything. He felt quite certain that he would be eaten at once. He jumped into the pond with a splash and swam as fast as he could to the other side of the water. Wasn't he a silly fellow? He's 5 years old now and quite grown up, but you have only to say snake to him to send him leaping away in fright. He was a silly little tadpole, wasn't he? But what we've got to remember is when he was a tadpole, he was little and he was young. Actually, as he got older, when he was a frog, he became a bit more knowledgeable. He knew more. So that's what we all do, really. When we're young, we're not very clever, we're not very knowledgeable, and we grow in our knowledge through school, through high school, through life, and we're always learning. I'm an adult. I'm still learning. I hope you enjoyed all our short stories. I look forward to reading some at school for you.